What's the most backstabbing thing someone has ever done to you? I'll never forget the night I found out about my wife's betrayal. My wife, Emily, had always been the picture of perfection in my eyes. Smart, beautiful, and charming. She seemed to have it all. We'd been married for 7 years, and I thought we had a solid, happy relationship. But one night, everything changed. It started innocuously enough. Emily had left her laptop open on the kitchen table, and I walked by to grab a glass of water. A notification popped up from a messaging app I didn't recognize. Curious, I glanced at the screen and saw a message from someone named Mark. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was amazing." My heart sank. I knew I shouldn't invade her privacy, but something compelled me to dig deeper. I opened the messaging app and scrolled through their conversation. My worst fears were confirmed. Emily had been having an affair with Mark, a colleague from her office. Their messages were filled with flirtation, plans for future rendezvous, and explicit details about their encounters. But what hurt the most wasn't just the affair. It was the way she talked about me. Emily had been mocking me to Mark, calling me boring, incompetent, and clueless. She even shared intimate details about our marriage, making me the butt of their jokes. I felt like my entire world was collapsing around me. For a moment, I wanted to confront her, to scream and demand answers. But then a different idea took root in my mind. If she could betray me so deeply, I would make sure she felt the consequences. I decided to play the long game, to gather evidence and exact my revenge in a way she'd never see coming. The next few weeks were torture. I acted like nothing was wrong, pretending to be the loving husband while secretly documenting every conversation between Emily and Mark. I took screenshots, recorded conversations, and even set up a camera in our living room to catch their interactions when Mark visited our house. Meanwhile, I started preparing for my exit. I quietly began transferring money from our joint accounts into a separate one in my name. I consulted with a divorce lawyer, explaining the situation and showing her the evidence I had gathered. She assured me I had a strong case and helped me plan my next steps. As I gathered more evidence, I noticed a shift in Emily's behavior. She became more affectionate, perhaps sensing my growing distance. She cooked elaborate meals, planned romantic evenings, and even suggested we go on a vacation together. Part of me wanted to believe she was genuinely trying to repair our marriage, but I knew better. This was just her attempt to cover her tracks and assuage her guilt. One night, after a particularly romantic dinner, Emily fell asleep early. I took the opportunity to go through her laptop one last time. That's when I found the final piece of evidence I needed, an email exchange between Emily and Mark discussing their plans to move in together once she dealt with her current situation. They laughed about how clueless I was, how easy it would be for them to start a new life together. I felt a cold rage settle over me. This was it. I was done playing the waiting game. The next morning, I woke up early and left for work as usual. But instead of going to the office, I went to a storage unit where I had been gradually moving my belongings over the past few weeks. I packed the last of my things and drove to a small furnished apartment I had rented in the next town. I sent Emily a text saying I was going on a work trip and would be back in a few days. She replied with a cheerful, "Have a safe trip. Can't wait to see you when you get back." I felt a bitter taste in my mouth as I read her words. That evening, I returned to our house one last time. I waited until Emily left for her yoga class, then entered quietly, using my key. I placed a manila envelope on the kitchen table, filled with all the evidence I had gathered. Inside, I included a letter explaining that I knew about her affair, her betrayal, and that I was filing for divorce. I also left a copy of the divorce papers, already signed by me. As a final touch, I took down all the pictures of us from the walls and shelves, replacing them with the printed screenshots of her conversations with Mark. I wanted her to see the full extent of her betrayal, to feel the weight of her actions when she walked in the door. When everything was in place, I left the house and drove to my new apartment. I blocked Emily's number, deactivated my social media accounts, and settled in for a sleepless night, knowing that her world was about to come crashing down. The next morning, I got a call from my lawyer. She told me that Emily had been served the divorce papers and had attempted to contact her multiple times, begging for a chance to explain. I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Despite everything, part of me still loved the woman I thought Emily was. Over the next few weeks, Emily tried every method to reach me. She sent letters, emails, and even showed up at my office, but I refused to see her. Our divorce proceeded quickly thanks to the overwhelming evidence of her infidelity. I got the house, most of our savings, and full custody of our dog, Max. Emily and Mark's relationship didn't last. Without the thrill of sneaking around, their affair quickly fell apart. I heard through mutual friends that Mark had moved on to someone else, leaving Emily alone and humiliated. It took time, but I eventually rebuilt my life. I moved to a new city, started a new job, and even began dating again. The scars of Emily's betrayal never fully healed, but they became a part of my past, a lesson in trust and resilience. Looking back, I realized that her betrayal, while devastating, also gave me the strength to start anew. I learned to value myself, to recognize my worth, and to never settle for someone who didn't appreciate me. In the end, Emily's backstabbing was the catalyst for my transformation, and for that, I'm strangely grateful.